Hi, welcome back. I'm Amy Bodette from the Alt East Store. Thank you for watching the third of our video series on designing an off-grid solar system. Step 3 is to size the solar array. We'll discuss the different considerations that go into determining how many solar panels you need. We're making good progress. Videos 1 and 2 showed how to determine the loads and battery bank. Now we'll do the solar panels. Just a quick reminder of the components that make up an off-grid system. We're on to the panels now. You may recall the loads list we did in our previous video. We came up with a total usage of 2191.5 watt-hours a day. We're rounding up to 2192. So how do we go about doing this? Insolation, also referred to as sun hours, is not the number of hours a day that the sun is shining. It is the number of hours that the sun's intensity is equal to standard test conditions, or the brightest part of the day. For example, since the sun is twice as bright as noon as it is at 9 a.m., 9 till 10 a.m. only counts as half an hour, whereas noon to 1 p.m. would be considered a full hour. NREL also took the historical weather conditions into account for each area, so it is a pretty accurate prediction of how much sun you'll get. This is a snapshot of average annual sun hours for PV mounted at latitude tilt, which is the angle that generally gives you your best year-round performance. You can see here in Massachusetts, we have an annual average about 4.5 sun hours a day. However, when you size an off-grid system, you must plan on worst case, which unless it's a seasonal camp, would be winter. As you would imagine, the sun hours drop off dramatically. So here in Massachusetts, in the winter, we drop down into the 2s. So designing my system, I'm going to look at the sun hours for December. I'm designing my system to be tilted at 42 degrees off horizontal, so I can look at my numbers for latitude, which is 42.27 degrees here. If I had it at a steeper angle, I would increase my winter production, but decrease my summer production. Conversely, if I had it installed at a lower angle, I would increase my summer and decrease my winter. Because winter in New England is pretty grim, with December going days without ever seeing sunshine, I'll be planning on using a generator when needed. But I'm still going to design this trying to optimize my solar contribution and only use a generator when needed. Let's face it, there's no such thing as a perfect system with no losses. But in off-grid systems, there's a lot more than you would expect. Due to things like soiling of the panels and voltage drop on the wire, losses in batteries and electronics, and several other factors, we'll be losing about 1/3 of the rated power from the panels. So a 100-watt rated panel may actually give us only about 67 watts of usable power, or even less, after all the losses are factored in. Here's the steps to calculate the minimum size array you need. You take the watt hours that you calculated from your loads list. You may recall our example was 2192 watt-hours a day. We divide it by the number of sun hours. Here we're using 2.8 sun hours. Then divide it by the system inefficiencies, or 0.67. This equals at least 1,168 watts of solar needed. There are so many options that are available for solar panels. Selecting which panel to use may seem daunting. First step is to narrow down what your priorities are. Do you want made in the USA or other specific country, or not made in a specific country? Do you want the panel frames to be black or silver, and the cells to be black or blue? Is there a particular brand you want to use, or is cost the only criteria you care about? For my system, I picked a nominal 24-volt made in the USA panel, SolarWorld's 315-watt monocrystalline panel. If the panel you select doesn't say what its nominal voltage is, you can look at its specs. A 24-volt nominal panel has a VOC of about 46 volts, whereas a 20-volt nominal panel has a VOC of about 38 volts. Now that we know how many watts of panels we need and which ones we're using, the rest is pretty simple. You do need to make sure that the number of panels allows you to wire them so that the nominal voltage of the panels either matches or is higher than the voltage of the battery bank. In this example, I can wire them in 2 parallel strings of 2, which gives me a nominal 48-volt array charging a 48-volt battery bank. Perfect. If I had determined that I needed 5 panels, I would have had to increase the array to 6 to allow for even strings of 2 in series. Let's run through that one more time. A 48-volt system in Worcester, Mass. Using 2192 watt-hours a day. 2192 watt-hours divided by 2.8 sun-hours divided by 0.67 efficiency equals 1168 watts needed. 1168 watts divided by 315 watt panels equals 4 panels. 48-volt system divided by 24-volt panels equals 2 panels in series per string. 4 panels are needed divided by 2 in series equals 2 parallel strings of 2 in series. I'm going to run through that example again, but this time using a different panel. Nominal 20-volt panels are usually used for grid-tied systems, not battery-based, and as such their voltage does not easily match up with a typical battery bank. But with an MPPT charge controller, which we'll discuss in the next video, you can use the grid-tied panels in a battery-based system. 20-volt panels are generally more common than 24-volt panels, so you may be able to get them easier than a 24-volt. I'm going to use these SolarWorld 260-watt 20-volt panels. Let's run the math. 2192 watt-hours divided by 2.8 sun-hours divided by 0.67 efficiency equals 1168 watts needed. No change there. 1168 watts divided by 260 watt panels equals 4.49 panels. This is where it starts to get interesting. Let's put a pin in this and come back. 48-volt system divided by 20-volt panels equals 2.4 panels in series per string. Well, obviously that won't work, so you'll need to round up to 3. Let's go back to the number of panels we need. If we have to have strings of 3, we need the total to be divisible by 3, so we'll have to round up to 6 panels. So now that we need 6 panels, we divide that by 3 in series, and that gives us 2 parallel strings of 3 in series. Well, that's it for the third video for designing an off-grid PV system. Watch the next videos in the series for how to select the charge controller and inverter using the numbers you came up with from these sessions. Also watch more of our video series on our website and peruse our selection of solar panels. We've got a team of highly trained sales reps available to help you plan your system. Give us a call. Thanks so much.